Hello and welcome back to Storytime. Please, it'd be really respected if you would grab yourself some water, maybe some tea, hot cocoa. You could put some lemon in your water or your tea. But yeah, I wanted us to just hang out and I wanted to read you guys a story tonight. This is a special video that I would like to dedicate to Shamar and Shariah. I want you guys to know that I've been sending you a lot of energy these last couple days. I thought of this story when I think of you guys, so I just wanted to read this, and I hope that it kind of helps you see things in kind of a different perspective. I wish I would have read this story years and years and years and years ago. And I think this is a detrimental story and concept for every woman and young girl, no matter what age you are, to understand and hear. So this is for you guys, and I also wanted to make this a YouTube video, you know, like for a lot of other people as well, because one of the things with pain and with crazy life events is sometimes it might feel like it, but we might have somebody a million miles away in another country that's going through the same exact thing. So I think that this story can resonate with a bunch of people right now. And I think that's kind of the beauty with stories and with life itself, is that even though we feel like we are just lost and frazzled and entered into basically a whole new universe, we aren't alone with it. So I think that if we all team together and our spirits and our souls just grab each other's hands and make a nice big circle of love and know that we're not alone. So this is chapter 3 of The Women Who Run with the Wolves. And something else I think that we need to understand is sometimes life pushes us to go live with the wolves a lot faster than we expected, or we didn't even expect that would be something that we experienced at all. But with being a woman and being a wild woman, we have to experience what it's like to live with the wolves and run into the woods unprepared and alone. So with that being said, this is chapter 3 of The Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I have a feeling somebody might be coming by with a lawnmower, so we'll just have to deal with that one. I can close this window. Hold on. Probably won't do anything because the windows are thin as paper. But we are going to be reading chapter 3, The Women Who Run with the Wolves. And this chapter is about nosing out the facts, the retrieval of intuition as initiation. What's even more funny is, speaking of intuition, my intuition definitely told me they were going to be cutting the grass today. So, chapter 3. Chapter 3. Nosing out the facts. The retrieval of intuition as initiation. The doll in her pocket. Vasalisa the Wise. Intuition is the treasure of a woman's psyche. It is like a divining instrument, and like a crystal through which one can see with uncanny interior vision. It is like an old wise woman who is with you always, who tells you exactly what the matter is, tells you exactly whether you need to go left or right. It is a form of the one who knows, old la que sabe, the wild woman. In the traditions I was raised in, dedicated storytellers were always off under some psychic hill, up to their knees in story dust, brushing away centuries of dirt, digging under layers of culture and conquests, numbering every frenzy and fiasco of the story they could find. Sometimes the story has been reduced to powder. Sometimes portions and details are missing or rubbed out. Often the form is intact, but the coloring is destroyed. But even so, every dig holds hope for finding an entire body of story intact and unbroken. The following tale is just an incredible treasure. To my mind, the old Russian tale Vasalisa is a woman's initiation story with a few essential bones astray. It is the realization that most things are not as they seem. As women, we call upon our intuition and instincts in order to sniff things out. We use all our senses to wring the truth from things, to extract nourishment from our own ideas, to see what there is to see, to know what there is to know, to be the keepers of our own creative fires, and to have intimate knowledge about the life, death, life cycles of all nature. This is an initiated woman. Stories with Vasalisa as a central character are told in Russia, Romania, Yugoslavia, Poland, and throughout all the Baltic countries. In some instances, the tale is commonly called Vasalisa the Wise. I find evidence of its archetypal roots dating back at least to the old horse goddess cults, which predate classic Greek culture. This tale carries ages-old psychic mapping about induction into the underworld of the wild female god. It is about infusing human woman with the wild woman's primary instinctual power, intuition. The power for my literary version of the Vasalisa tale, spun here, was given to me by my Aunt Kathy. It begins with one of the oldest storytelling devices. There once was, and there once was not. This paradoxical phrase is meant to alert the soul of the listener that this story takes place in the world between worlds, where nothing is at first as it seems. So let us begin. Vasalisa. There once was, and there once was not, a young mother who lay on her deathbed, her face pale as the white wax roses in the sacristy of the church nearby. Her young daughter and her husband sat at the end of her old wooden bed and prayed that God would guide her safely into the next world. The dying mother called to Vasalisa, and the little child in red boots and white apron knelt at her mother's side. "Here is a doll for you, my love," the mother whispered, and from her hairy coverlet she pulled a tiny doll, which, like Vasalisa herself, was dressed in red boots, a white apron, a black skirt, a vest broidered all over in colored thread. "Here are my last words, beloved," said the mother. "Should you lose your way or be in need of help, ask this doll what to do. You will be assisted. Keep the doll with you always. Do not tell anyone about her. Feed her when she is hungry. This is my mother's promise to you, my blessing on you, dear daughter." And with that, the mother's breath fell into the depths of her body, where it gathered up her soul and rushed out between her lips, and the mother was dead. The child and her father mourned for a very long time, but like the field cruelly plowed under by war, the father's life rose green from the furrows around, and he married a widow with 2 daughters. Although the stepmother and her daughter spoke in polite tones and always smiled like ladies, there was something from the rodent behind their smiles which Vasalisa's father did not perceive. Sure enough, when the 3 women were alone with Vasalisa, they tormented her, forced her to wait on them, sent her to chop wood so her lovely skin would become blemished. They hated her because she had a sweetness about her that was otherworldly. She was also very beautiful. Her breasts were bound while theirs were dwindled from meanness. She was helpful and uncomplaining, while the stepmother and stepsisters were, among themselves, like rats in the offal pile at night. One day, the stepsisters and stepmother simply could not stand Vasalisa any longer. "Let us conspire to make that fire go out, and let us send Vasalisa into the forest to Baba Yaga, the witch, to beg fire for her heart. And when she reaches Baba Yaga, well, old Baba Yaga will kill her and eat her." Oh, they all clapped and squeaked like little things that lived in the dark. So that evening, when Vasalisa came home from gathering wood, the entire house was dark. She was very concerned and inquired of her stepmother, "What has happened? What will we have to cook with, and what will we do to light the darkness?" The stepmother admonished, "You stupid child. Obviously we have no fire, and I can't go out into the woods because I'm too old. My daughters cannot go because they are afraid, so you are the only one who can go out into the forest to find Baba Yaga and get a coal to start our fire again." Vasalisa replied innocently, "Well, all right, yes, I'll do that." And so she set out. The woods became darker and darker, and sticks cracked under her feet, frightening her. She reached down into the long, deep pocket of her apron, and there was the doll her mother had given her. Vasalisa patted the doll in her pocket and said, "Just touching this doll, yes, I feel better." And at every fork in the road, Vasalisa reached into her pocket and consulted the doll. "Well, should I go to the left or should I go to the right?" The doll indicated yes, or no, or this way, or that way. And Vasalisa fed the doll with some of her bread as she walked and followed what she felt was emanating from the doll. Suddenly, a man in white on a white horse galloped by, and it became daylight. Further on, a man in red sauntered by on a red horse, and the sun rose. Vasalisa walked, and just as she came to the hovel of Baba Yaga, a rider dressed in black came trotting on a black horse, and rode right into Baba Yaga's hut. Swiftly, it became night. The fence made of skulls and bones surrounding the hut began to blaze with an inner fire, so the clearing around the forest glowed with an eerie light. Now, Baba Yaga was a very fearsome creature. She traveled not in a chariot, not in a coach, but in a cauldron shaped like a mortar which flew all by itself. She rode this vehicle with an oar shaped like a pestle, and all the while she swept out the tracks of where she had been with a broom made from the hair of a person long dead. The cauldron flew through the sky with Baba Yaga's own greasy hair flying behind. Her long chin curved up and her long nose curved down, and they met in the middle. She had a tiny white goatee and warts on her skin from her trade in toads. Her brown-stained fingernails were thick and rigid like roofs and so curled over she could not make a fist. Even more strange was the Baba Yaga's house. It sat atop huge, scaly yellow chicken legs and walked all by itself, and sometimes twirled and around like an ecstatic dancer. The bolts on the doors and shutters were made of human fingers and toes, and the locks on the front door was a snout with many pointed teeth. Vasalisa consulted her doll and asked, "Is this the house we seek?" And the doll, in its own way, answered, "Yes, this is what you seek." And before she could take another step, Baba Yaga in her cauldron descended on Vasalisa and shouted down at her, "What do you want?" The girl trembled. "Grandmother, I came for fire. My house is cold. My people will die. I need fire." Baba Yaga snapped, "Oh yes, I know you and your people. Well, you useless child, you let the fire go out. That is an ill-advised thing to do. And besides, what makes you think I should give you flame?" Vasalisa consulted her doll and quickly replied, "Because I ask." Baba Yaga purred. "You are very lucky that is the right answer." Vasalisa felt very lucky she had given the right answer. Baba Yaga threatened, "I cannot possibly give you fire until you have done work for me. If you perform these tasks for me, you shall have the fire, and if not—" And here Vasalisa saw Baba Yaga's eyes suddenly turn to red cinders. "If not, my child, you shall die." So Baba Yaga rumbled into the hovel and lay down upon her bed and ordered Vasalisa to bring her what was cooking in the oven. In the oven was enough food for 10 people, and the Yaga ate it all, leaving just a tiny crust and a thimble of soup for Vasalisa. "Wash my clothes, sweep the yard and clean my house, prepare my food and separate the millweed corn from the good corn and see that everything is in order. I will be back to inspect your work later, and if it is not done, you will be my feast." And with that, Baba Yaga flew off in her cauldron with her nose as the windstalk and her hair as the sail, and it became night again. Vasalisa turned to her doll as soon as the Yaga had gone. "What shall I do? Can I complete these tasks in time?" The doll assured her she could, to eat a little and to go to sleep. Vasalisa fed the doll a little too, and then she slept. In the morning, the doll had done all the work, and all that remained was the meal to be cooked. In the evening, the Yaga returned and found nothing undone. Pleased in a way, but not pleased because she could find no fault. Baba Yaga sneered, "You are a very lucky girl." She then called on her faithful servants to grind the corn, and 3 pairs of hands appeared mid-air and began to rasp and crush the corn. The chaff flew in the house like a golden snow. Finally it was done, and Baba Yaga sat down to eat. She ate for hours and ordered Vasalisa on the morrow to again clean the house, sweep the yard, and launder her clothing. The Yaga pointed at a great mound of dirt in the yard. In that pile of dirt are many poppy seeds, millions of poppy seeds. All I want in the morning is to have 1 pile of poppy seeds and 1 pile of dirt, all separated out from each other. Do you understand? Vasalisa almost fainted. Oh my, how am I going to do that? She reached into her pocket and the doll whispered, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And that night, Baba Yaga snored off to sleep. And Vasalisa tried to pick the seeds out of the dirt, and after a time the doll said to her, "Sleep now, all will be well." Again the doll accomplished these tasks, and when the old woman returned home, all was done. Baba Yaga spoke sarcastically through her nose. "Well, lucky for you that you were able to do these things." She called for her faithful servants to press the oil from the poppy seeds, and again 3 pairs of hands appeared, and did so. While the Yaga was smearing her lips with grease from her stew, Vasalisa stood nearby. "What are you staring at?" barked Baba Yaga. "May I ask you some questions, grandmother?" asked Vasalisa. "Ask," ordered the Yaga. "But remember, too much knowledge can make a person old too soon." Vasalisa asked about the man on a white horse. "Aha," said Yaga fondly, "that first is my day." "And the man on the red horse?" "Ah, that is my rising sun." And the man on the black horse? Ah, yes, that is the third, and he is my knight." "I see," said Vasilisa. "Come, come, child, wouldn't you like to ask more questions?" whittled the Yaga. Vasilisa was about to ask about the pairs of hands that appeared and disappeared, but the doll began to jump up and down in her pocket, so instead Vasilisa said, "No, grandmother, as you yourself say, to know too much can make one old too soon." "Ah," said the Yaga, cocking her head like a bird. "You are wiser than your years, my girl. And how did you come to be this way?" "By the blessing of my mother," smiled Vasilisa. "Blessing?" screeched Baba Yaga. "Blessing? We need no blessings around this house. You best be on your way, daughter." She pushed Vasilisa out into the night. "I'll tell you what, child. Here." Baba Yaga took a skull with fiery eyes from her fence and put it on a stick. "Here, take this stick on the way home with you. There is your fire. Don't say another word, just be on your way." Vasilisa began to thank Yaga, but the little doll in her pocket began to jump up and down, and Vasilisa realized she just must take the fire and go. She ran home through the dark forest, following the turns and twists on the road as the doll told her which way to go. Vasilisa came through the forest carrying the skull with fire blazing from its eyes, ears, nose, and mouth holes. Suddenly she became frightened of its weight and its eerie light and thought to throw it away, but the skull spoke to her and urged her to calm herself and to continue towards her home of her stepmother and stepsisters. And this she did. As Vasilisa came nearer and nearer to her house, her stepmother and stepsisters looked out the window and saw a strange glowing dance through the woods. Closer and closer it came. They could not imagine what it could be. They had decided that Vasilisa's long absence meant she was dead by now, and her bones dragged away by animals and good riddance. Vasilisa advanced closer and closer to home. As the stepsisters and stepmother saw it was her, they ran to her, saying how they had been without fire since she'd left, and no matter how hard they had tried to start one, it always went out. Vasilisa entered the house feeling triumphant, for she had survived her dangerous journey and brought back fire to her home. But the skull on the stick watched the stepsisters and the stepmother's every move and burnt into them, and by morning it had burnt the wicked trio into cinders. And there we have it, an abrupt ending to kick people out of the fairy tale and back into reality again. There are many of these endings in sorts of fairy tales. They are equivalent of saying boo to bring the listeners back to mundane reality. Vasilisa is a story of handing down the blessings on women's power of intuition from mother to daughter, from one generation to the next. This great power, intuition, is composed of lightning-fast inner seeing, inner hearing, inner sensing, and inner knowing. Over generations, these intuitive powers become as buried streams within women, buried by disuse and unfounded charges of disrepute. However, Jung once remarked that nothing was ever lost in the psyche. I think we too can be confident that the things lost in the psyche are all still there. So too, this well of woman's instinctual intuition is never lost, and whatever is covered over can be brought back out again. To grasp the import of such a tale, we understand that all its components represent characterizations of a single woman's psyche. So all aspects of the story belong to and elucidate an individual psyche undergoing an initiatory process. Initiation is enacted by completing certain tasks. In this tale, there are 9 tasks for the psyche to complete. They focus on learning something of the ways of the old wild mother. Through completions of these tasks, a woman's intuition, that knowing who walks wherever a woman walks, looking at all things in their lives and commenting on the truth of it all with swift accuracy, is reset into women's psyche. The goal is a loving and trusting relationship with this being whom we have come to call the knowing woman, the essence of the wild woman archetype. In this rite of the old wild female goddess, Baba Yaga, these are the tasks of initiation. The first task, allowing the too good mother to die. In the opening tale, the mother is dying and bequeaths to her daughter an important legacy. This psychic task of this stage in a woman's life are these: accepting that the ever-watchful, hovering, protective psychic mother is not adequate as a central guide for one's future instinctual life. The too good mother dies. Taking on the task of being on one's own, developing one's own consciousness about danger, intrigue, and politic. Becoming alert by oneself for one's self, letting die what must die. As the too good mother dies, the new woman is born. In the tale, the initiatory process begins with the dear and good mother dies. She is not there to touch Vasalisa's hair anymore. In all of our lives as daughters, there is a time when the good mother of the psyche, the one which serves us appropriately well in earlier times, turns into a too good mother, one which by virtue of her over-safeguard values begins to prevent us from responding to new challenges, and thereby deeper development. In the natural process of our maturing, the too good mother must become thinner and thinner, must dwindle away until we are left to care for ourselves in a new way. While we always retain a core of her warmth, this natural psychic transition leaves us on our own in a world that is not motherly to us. But wait, this too good mother is not all at first as it seems. Under the blanket, she has a doll to give to her daughter. Ah, there is something of the wild mother underneath this figure. The too good mother cannot completely live this out, for she is the milk-teeth mother, the blessed one every baby needs in order to gain a toehold in the psychic world of love. So even though this too good mother cannot live and influence beyond a certain point in a girl's life, she does right by her offspring here. She blesses Vasalisa with the doll, and this, we see, is a great blessing indeed. This dramatic psychological dwindling of the overarching mother occurs as a girl moves from our fur-lined nest of pre-adolescence to the jolting jungle of adolescence. For some girls, mother, the mother called intuition, was only half completed then, and women, so indicted, have wandered for years, wishing and waiting to complete the initiatory experience, and patching themselves up the best as they could. The arresting of a woman's initiation process occurs for various reasons, such as when there has been too much psychological hardship early in one's life, especially when there has been no consistent, good enough mother in the early years. The initiation may also be stalled or incomplete because there is not enough tension in the psyche. The too good mother has the stamina of a formidable weed and lives on, waving her leaves and overprotecting her daughter even though the script says, "Exit stage left now." In this situation, women often feel too timid to proceed into the woods and resist all that they can. For those, as well as other adult women, from whom the rigors of life itself chip and distance them from their deeply intuitive lives, and whose plaint is often, "I'm too tired of taking care of myself," there is a good and a wise remedy. A reaffirming of, a retracting, or a reinitiation will reset the deep intuition, regardless of a woman's age. And it is this deep intuition that knows what is good for us, knows what we need next, and knows it with lightning speed, if we just take down its dictation. Vasalisa's initiation begins with learning to let die what must die. This means let die the values and attitudes within the psyche which no longer sustain her. Especially to be examined are those long-held tendencies which make life too safe, which overprotect, which make women walk with a scurry instead of a stride. The time during which the childhood positive mother dwindles and her attitude dies as well, it is always a time of great learning. Although there is a period in our lives during which we rightfully remain close to the protective psychic mother, for instance, when we are actual children or during recovery from an illness or psychological or spiritual trauma, or even when our lives are in danger and being quiet will keep us safe. And even though we retain large stores of her successor for life, there's always comes a time to change mothers, so to speak. If we stay overly long with the protective mother within our own psyches, we find ourselves impeding all challenges to ourselves and therefore blocking further development. While I do not in any way advise that a woman ought to throw herself into torturous or abusive situations, I do mean that she must set for herself something in life that she will be willing to reach for and therefore take risks for. It is through this process that she sharpens her intuitive powers. Among wolves, when a wolf mother nurses her pups, she and they spend much time lazing about. Everyone slumps over everyone else in a great puppy pile, and the outer world and the world of challenges are far away. However, when the wolf mother fully trains the pups to hunt and forage, she shows them her teeth. More often than not, she snaps and demands they keep up. She shoves them down if they do not do what she requires. And so it is in order to pursue further development that we exchange the hovering internal mother which was so apt for us when we were younger for another kind of mother, one who lives even deeper in the psychic wilderlands, one who is both escort and teacher. She is a loving mother but also fierce and demanding. Most of us will not let the too good mother die just because it is time. Although this too good mother may not allow our most vivid energies to surface, it is so nice to be with her, so comfortable, so why leave? Often we hear voices within our minds which encourages us to hold back, to stay safe. These voices say things like, oh, don't say that, or you can't do that, or, well, you're certainly not one of my children's if you will do that, or it's dangerous out there, or who knows what will become of you if you insist on leaving this warm nest, or you're just going to humiliate yourself, you know, or even more insidious still, pretend you are taking risk, but secretly you are still here with me. These are all voices of the frightened and rather exasperated too good mother within the psyche. She cannot help herself. She is what she is. Yet, if we merge with the too good mother for too long, our lives and our gifts of expression fall into the shadows, and we become scant instead of strong. And worse, what occurs when one compresses a vivid energy and allows it no life? Like the magic porridge pot in the wrong hands, it grows and grows and grows until it explodes, spilling out all of its goodness onto the ground. So, we must be able to see that for the intuitive psyche to be invigorated, the nice hovering protector must recede. Or perhaps, more accurately, we eventually find ourselves pushed out of that nice cozy tete a tete, not because we wanted it that way, not because we were completely ready, not because no one is ever ready, but because there is something waiting for us at the edge of the woods, and it is our fate to meet it. Guillaume Apollinaire wrote, "We took them to the edge and bade them fly. They held on. Fly, we said. They held on. We pushed them over the edge, and they flew." It is typical for women to be afraid to let the too comfortable and too safe life die. Sometimes a woman has revealed in the protection of the too good mother, and so desires to continue to infinitum. She must be willing to feel anxious sometimes, otherwise she might as well have stayed in the nest. Sometimes a woman is afraid to be without security or without certainty, even for a short time. She has more excuses than dogs have hairs. She must simply dive in and stand not knowing what will happen next. It is the only thing that retrieves her intuitive nature. Sometimes a woman is so bound up in being the too good mother to other adults they have latched onto her teats, and are not about to let her leave. In this case, a woman has to kick him off with her hind legs and go on anyway. Since the dreaming psyche compensates for, among other things, that which the ego will not or cannot acknowledge, a woman's dreams during such a struggle will be filled with chases, dead ends, cars that will not start, incomplete pregnancies, and other symbols which imagine life not going forward. In her guts, a woman knows there is a deadliness in being the too sweet self for too long. So, loosening our hold on the glowing archetype of the ever too sweet and too good mother of the psyche is the first step. We are off the teat and learning to hunt. There is a wild mother waiting to teach us. But in the meantime, the second task is to hold on to the doll while we learn its uses. So, we just finished talking about the first task of the Vasalisa story, and that task is letting and allowing the too good mother to pass. Now, as I had mentioned, this book had been in my house my whole life, but I didn't know. I didn't find this book in my mom's bookshelf until after she had passed away. And I was about 15 or 16 at that time. I think I read the first couple pages of this book and I didn't feel it. I didn't resonate with it. I don't know what it was. Now I just can tell it was my state of mind. So sometimes when we have books at our fingertips or even information at our fingertips, the internet is a vast ocean of anything under the sun. Sometimes when we have something that is of value or of resources right at our fingertips, we don't necessarily see its value in the moment because we are bombarded with so many emotions that we're trying to swim through on its own, that how the heck could our mind swim through its own emotions to then swim through a book and try to find something meaningful to then try to apply it to our life. So that's why I wanted to share this story with you guys and kind of push it onto you in a way that wasn't pushed onto me. I wish that there was a time in my life when I was a young girl, a young teenager, even a young woman, where I would have been told that there will be a time in my life where I have to let go of the too good mother. Whether that be physically or mentally. That might mean we are our own too good of a mother that is stopping us from developing. It could mean that we have a physical mother or a sister or a best friend that is of a mother figure or just a figure near us that isn't, it doesn't mean too good as in you don't deserve it. It means that they're too sweet and too comforting and too cozy for you to succeed in life the way that you need to, the way that your path and your journey is destined to be. Another thing, like I said, I didn't read this story until it was too late, in my opinion. I had been trying to weasel through so many things, and I had people give me so much different advice. Now looking back, the advice, it made sense. People were just trying to help, but when you go through the process of losing your too good mother and being pushed into the forest unexpectedly, it's in this story, it's seen as an initiation process. It's not seen as a hiccup. It's not seen as a mistake. It's not seen as an accident. It's not seen as a punishment. It's not seen as a form of karma, you know? I used to wonder if I did something bad in my life to deserve the weird stuff that was going on in my life. And yes, time kind of makes you experience different things and it makes you used to the situation, but that's what time does. It elongates a situation. When we're new and bright to it, right, it does feel like a test. It does feel like we're being smacked in the face and somehow spiritually punished for something. It doesn't make absolutely any sense. It does not make sense no matter how much we try to make the puzzle fit. If we see it as not a test, as in I have to pass this, but as an initiation that is almost seen as a form of a blessing. I never saw intense life events or situations as initiation. I had always heard other people tell me the universe doesn't throw anything at you that you can't handle. And I got that. I understood that. But I still didn't understand why, out of all people, you know, my best friend had to be the one to go. And I think it's because I was looking at her through a filter. I wasn't seeing her for what she was. And that's what the story is. Vasalisa did not see her mother for what she was at first. She saw her mother as her best friend, her sidekick, and somebody who ultimately she watched pass. In reality, her mother gifted her one of the greatest gifts a mother can give, and that is the power of intuition. It's Vasalisa's little doll in her pocket that is whispering to her which way to go. That is the gift. And it takes going through initiation to strengthen that gift, right? Not everybody can just walk around with a magic wand. It doesn't work like that. Not everybody can walk around with a magic wand, and that's why we have to go through certain steps of initiation to make sure our soul in that wild woman is ready for the next step. Or like Vasalisa's told, she might as well stay in the nest. But there's something inside of us that knows that is not where we're supposed to go. Us as wild women, think about it. A wild wolf gave birth to us in retrospect. A wild wolf who was able to tear through these forests, raise young ones, find shelter, grow their own food. So what would it become of us to stay in that nest, right? What would become of us to, when that too good mother walks out on us, leaves and goes on to her journey of being her next wild woman, what would it become of us to stay in that nest and not run out her legacy? Run to the edge of the woods with the power she gave us and the power she left us. She would be very saddened to see if she came back in a couple months. Her puppies are sitting in the nest, scared and whimpering and hungry and fearful. She would honestly probably look at the pups and say, guys, what did we train for? We prepared for this. Whether or not we were ready, we were preparing. And I think that's why I said, I wish I was told this sooner. I wish all of us were told this sooner. There is a moment that is going to be where we are pushed to the edge of the forest. And when we turn around, those very hands that put us here on this earth will not be there. They won't be there anymore. And it's that snap into this reality, like the boo at the end of the story. It's to say this isn't the end of the story. The story was beautiful. The nest was warm, but it's so vast out there. It's so vast. And if Mama Wolf protected her pups for forever, her pups will never grow into be wolves. Those wolves will never grow into be wild women. You know what I mean? And it takes that wild wolf leaving her wild cubs to grow, for a life to evolve. It's the life-death cycle of everything that has to happen. It's a cycle. It's not an end. So to allow the cycle of the wild wolf, that wild mother, to keep living, it is our job. It's up to us as these little wolf pups who are just running around this crazy world. But then the best part of it all is that, and I've learned this, I've seen it from experience, I really have. This is something I had to learn. I wasn't told this. I wasn't told that, Sara, it's okay that Mama Wolf, she went on her trail. That's okay. Because the second you start digging around the woods, you might come across a cool storyteller under a tree. Another wolf who's been there. A wolf who's raised 7 litters of pups. You know? But you would have never met her if you would have stayed in the nest. You know? And having to meet her and then saying hello and goodbye to her as well. Allowing another teacher to come in. Because like I've said, I've always told you guys, don't even allow me to be the only person that gives you advice. You have to have other teachers. The universe is spewing knowledge out of the most beautiful people through generations upon generations. So we need to become those people who are able to spew just that much knowledge, to put the little dolls into other people's pockets. Everybody has a doll in their pocket. I promise they do. This is the thing that Clarissa explains, it's just been buried over. But it can be unburied. That's what wolf pups love to do, is dig for stuff. You know? I think that sometimes what happens to us as we start maturing is we lose that kind of sense of curiosity. We become used to the notion that the too good mama left and now we're just out here. That's where she said. We stop wanting to take care of ourselves. We're tired of it. But that's where we have to learn that doll, once you start feeling that way, she will start jumping up and down so intensely that it cannot be ignored. And that's the power, that's the fire and flame, you know, that was gifted to us. That was gifted to our mother, that was then gifted to us. You know, that one wolf pup is passing down to that wolf pup, and that wolf pup will grow and pass on to the next wolf pup. But they can't pass it along if they stay in the nest, you know? It's almost like that little doll is asleep until the nest is taken away. You know? I promise you. I had a little doll. I did as a little girl. We've always had that little voice in our head guiding us, right? But I promise you, she matures when we mature. They mature when we mature. You know? And the reason why I wanted to stop after the first task of her initiation story, because there's 8 more tasks, is because I want to make this into just a mini series where I might post 2 a day or 1 a day. Like I might turn this off and then read the second task and have it posted tonight. But I just wanted to introduce this little section about Vasalisa the Wise. Everybody needs to hear this, whether you are a male or a female. The too good mother in our lives, the mother, whether it be ourselves, whether it be a teacher, we have to say goodbye. Whether we want to or not. And if I would have been told that, I feel like it wouldn't have been easier, but I would have been a little bit more prepared. My doll would have been a little bit more prepared as well. I would have had like a little bit more of a team as opposed to being reintroduced to her, you know? Because right after my mom passed away, I was just reintroduced to this doll in my pocket, and I'm like, bro, I don't even want to talk to you right now. But I did it because I didn't know. I wasn't aware that doll is her power. It's her wild woman still speaking. It's what her wild woman taught the little wild woman in me. And now that wild woman, the universe, the mother nature of this universe, saw us, the special seed we are, that we're ready. That's why I say this initiation is a sort of a gift, because not everybody's ready. I promise you not everybody's ready. That's the magic in life. You are going through something so early that is going to prepare you immensely for your wiser years. That is something that I am forever blessed with. It is such a tragedy to have to say goodbye to the too good mother when we're not ready. Especially like Clarissa says, when our own psyche isn't even completed yet, when it's still immature. Like I said, when our little doll is still growing, still developing her own mind, and then we're just both left. It seems tragic at first, but it becomes a blessing the more the flower opens up. It's literally a little bud. We are a little bud, and the bud cannot open unless the big flowers around it are trimmed down. You know, think of it that way. We're in a beautiful garden. Our mother is towering above us. She's the flower that takes the rain for us. She's the flower that the bugs find first. The bee stings first because the baby bee doesn't know to suck pollen yet. It's just going around stinging stuff. You know, I'm just saying. Sometimes you have to cut that flower to allow the other flowers beneath it to grow. If you guys have ever had a flower garden, grow zinnias. They're the most beautiful flower. You learn about the life-death process of nature, of everything. You have to sometimes cut the most biggest beautiful flower to allow their pups to grow. That flower did amazing because you know why? Its roots is what created the small flowers underneath it. So we have to remember that. Just because it seems like that flower has been cut from our lives, its roots are so deeply engraved within us that the water that it supples is what is still going to supplement us. But we have to feed and nurture and water our garden on our own now. We were shown that it's possible for a garden to flourish with a wild woman taking care of it. So with that wild woman leaving, her footsteps are still all over the garden for us to fulfill. Our feet will still magically fill those footprints and we will feel the power. I promise. It's almost like if you step into those footprints of the wild woman before you, the magic comes through the ground and you feel it happen. But you won't feel that way if your feet are tucked up in a ball and you're still in the nest because you're scared, you know? It is a scary, scary world out there, but the wild women who have been before us have left their path and their legacy and their power and their knowledge. It just has to be uncovered. It's like a closed book. You can't be scared of the information that is held inside of a book. You have to open it. It's just like us. Just because we're left alone, we can still find the power to see what's within. Because isn't it crazy how much of an influence our wolf mother had on us? She was able to bring out the parts of us that we couldn't even bring out ourselves, you know? The laughter, the happiness, the fear, the growth, the memories. If they have that power to bring that out in us and they created us, then best believe that we have the power to bring that out in us too. Because they still want to see that. Their spirit and their energy, they still want to see that. They want to have us fulfill our legacy now. It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And it's initiation to becoming a wild woman. It's hard, it's tough. Not everybody can become one. That's why they are so few and select. And that's why when you run into them, they are magical. But you cannot take them for advantage because every good mother has to eventually die. And we have to allow that to happen. That's even with me. I'm not going to be here one day to give you advice, you know? I might have to stop giving you advice because I got a pup to raise, you know? I got a little wild woman or wild boy to try to raise myself. So then they can start spitting out knowledge. They can be the next wild being out here. That's where we need to have our focus be as well. Okay? Because there are too few wild people in this world. And it's so scary. Don't be scared to go to the edge of the forest. And if your wild mother is still here, if that too good mother is still here, have the talk with her. See if she understands that one day you're going to have to leave the nest. You know? Some moms out here might live to be 100 and some might not. But I think it's really important to be able to sit down and have a talk with the wild mother while they're here. So, to those of you who, you know, are like me and are like others who are out here hunting the forest by yourselves, we've got this. And to those of you out there who still have a wild wolf out there who's protecting you, understand that they have a lot of power to teach you. Sit down and see what they have to say. Hear stories about how their initiation processes went. And see if they're ready to also have you leave the nest. But no matter what age we are, no matter what cycle we're going through, no matter who we find ourselves with in relationships-wise, individually, we have to have a connection with the doll in our pocket. We have to have a connection with the wild woman spiritually swimming around, trying to guide us in the right direction too. Because sometimes our dolls might not know everything because we don't know everything yet. And everything is developing. 5 years from now, we might go through a new initiation process. That's the other thing. Life is about a journey. It's journeying of initiations. And if you haven't found yourself going through an initiation in a little bit, maybe it's because you found too much comfort in a nest, you know? Maybe you gotta step out into the garden a little bit. But with that being said, yeah, I just wanted to introduce chapter 3. I feel like if I sat here and read the whole thing, we would be here for days. And so yeah, I would like to get that done. And that's another thing that I've been wanting to work on, is sticking to a task and finishing it. So, sticking to a task and finishing it. So, please look forward. I also think that I'm going to do a makeup tutorial later today. I might. And I think for the background, I'll do one of the initiation tasks from the story, because we still have 8 more. And yeah, so I hope you guys look forward to that and future story times. And as well, to everybody out there, Shamar and Shariah, my heart is with every single one of you guys. The whole world, we've all got each other, and I don't want anybody to ever feel alone. So with that, please don't forget to eat, don't forget to go sit in the sunlight for a little bit, and most importantly, don't forget to drink some water. I will see you guys later. Yeah. Ta-ta for now. Whoa. I'd rather have the kids playing. Turns and twists in the road as the doll told her which way to go. Vasalisa came through the forest,